So there may be a few of you that are here that have not been aware of the situation that has been going on for the better part of forever. Forever, it turns out, is 2 years. But for those of you who aren't aware, there has been a lot of drama in my personal life outside of this stream, but also directly related to the stream. And you're probably hyper aware that this channel is very different than it was, at least in branding. We have a full name change. We have a little bit of artistic rebranding, and the major one being that I am no longer part of the foundation. That situation is what I want to address. I am not going to be going into incredibly fine details. I'm not going to be dragging this on for a while. So for those of you who are here ready for the cutthroat drama, I am sorry to disappoint. You're probably not going to hear more information than you have already heard. However, that being said, at the end of this little, whatever you want to call it, I am going to give people an opportunity to ask questions within reason. I cannot promise that I will be able to or that I will feel comfortable answering everything. But I'm also not going to be doing this for very long, just long enough to kind of get a little bit out of your system before we move on. But I need to address everything that has happened in the last forever. Just so that everyone is aware and we're all on the same page. If you haven't seen my post about the situation that I made back in January, it is available. It is on my Tumblr. You are fully free to go peruse that and read all about everything. I am not going to be going into extremely heavy details as far as what all went down, what happened, the ending of things, anything like that. I already talked a lot about a bunch of things, and to be quite honest with you, it's very exhausting having to relive it all the time. That said, there is a bit of crucial information from that post that is worth kind of reiterating as this is why we're here. The gist of it is that after a pretty bad split, and a lot of work with my therapist, I've kind of been coming to terms with a lot of different types of abuse and manipulation and almost compulsive cheating in my prior relationships, all levied against me. I am not going to go into those details, but that is essentially why we're here. I'm very tangentially involved in a lot of communities, so I popped my head in one day, heard Messy breakup, and went, oof, that sucks, then moved on to other channels and discords. As you should. As is the correct response, Pluvius. During the time that I was involved in the foundation and in the relationships that I was in, I was convinced to make a lot of statements take a lot of actions that I otherwise would not have done. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that. When I say that I otherwise wouldn't have done, some of it is because I legitimately was not getting all of the information. It is something that from the outside it's hard to really digest how easy the human brain is at being manipulated and convinced of things. It is also from the inside really hard to identify and correct that. I was working on less information that I have now. I was also having a lot of buttons pressed constantly, a lot of tendencies that I have that were being amplified by 1,000. The thing is, I say all of this to provide context because I'm not trying to excuse anything of what I said or did for those 2 years. I'm saying that to point out that, to the contrary, I did and said a lot of things on my own that I was not told to do. And people who are really good at this kind of manipulation rarely, if ever, have to directly ask somebody to do a thing for them, or to commit some sort of harm for them. It is an unfortunate reality. And I was deep in it for a long time. With this little segment, I guess, of kind of addressing the elephant in the room, my goal is twofold. I want to set things straight. I want everyone to be on the same page of what's going on. But I also want to at least have the possibility of reaching the handful of people who might still be hanging on to the community, who see it as a third place. Maybe they don't feel like they fit anywhere else. Maybe they don't know the full story. Maybe they are still themselves victims of the information control. And I don't have any delusions that I'm going to be able to reach everyone. I don't have any desire to try to save anyone. But my hope is that with at least the little bit of goodwill that I had with a lot of people in that community, that if they see this, it might give them some pause and reflection. And if you know somebody who's in the foundation, don't cut them off. They need support. A lot of people in there might have already moved on and might not be totally sucked in. They may have other communities and they may not engage that much anymore. And I know that there are plenty of people who are like that because I saw it while I was in there near the end. So many people being absent or leaving, that it's obvious now that they had other places to go. But there are a fair few people in there that don't feel like they have anywhere to go. They don't feel like they have any other place, because a lot of them are victims IRL. And that's the tragic part of it, is that spaces like that can be good in the short term, in the moment, because it keeps someone outside of what they're dealing with in the real world. But long term, it ends up leading to the same problems. if you have outside support, it's so much easier to leave. If you can be the person to be that outside support, for me, that person was my now fiance, then partner, which is really good. And also true, if you have outside support, it is much easier. And if you don't, it's much easier to get wrapped back in. I want to make it perfectly clear for anyone who's watching, for anyone who is, maybe you're still part of the foundation, maybe you're in the foundation but you're not really part of it. I'm not going to be turning people away. I'm not going to be making people choose between the two communities. I do not care what communities you are in, within reason. If you are in the foundation and you feel like the people in that space are good for you and you want to maintain your connections, I'm not going to turn you away, and I'm not going to convince you. I'm not going to try to convince you to leave. You have to make that choice. I'm not going to try to convince you to ditch everyone in there. It's not the battle that I want to fight. And to be honest, my goal with this is not to strip away any of their support either. Like, the sad reality is that even the most broken and, harmful people need support or they can never get better. And I do believe that people can. So I am not going to ask you to choose. I'm not going to try to convince you to leave. But what I do want is for anyone who is maybe still there, or maybe tangentially related, or maybe you kind of have friends mostly there, but don't really have a lot of friends outside of there. I want you to know that my server is open to you. I finally got the Discord server for this channel is fully set up, as fully set up as it can be. And as of this stream, it is now officially open. I mean, it's still invite only. If you want to join and you're not part of the server, there is a command in the chat that you can pull to get the link. The link will also be in the description of each of my videos. They've been isolating themselves quite a bit lately. Yeah, it's a defense mechanism. It's a defense mechanism because the more people who start to realize the harm, the more they have to isolate themselves from that outer perspective. Yeah, stop by and like some of the memes that Wolfie posts. There are a lot of memes in our server. But seriously, there's a lot of really cool things in here, and anyone is welcome to join. Yeah, Dian's Shadow. That was the other piece that I was going to point out, was that while I'm fully prepared not to ask questions when it comes to the Foundation, that is not going to be the case for them, and I know that that's not going to be the case for them. And for those of you who may be hesitant to join my server because of that, I completely understand. It has already happened multiple times where that loyalty test has been forced upon people, including to my closest friend. And so I know that joining my server if you do have people in there, or if you do find some sort of like peace with the broader community and maybe not the people who are leading it, that there is a risk. There is a risk that you're taking. And that goes for basically any server of anyone who's here, any of the people who were formerly a part of it. As much as that sucks, I get it if you want to prioritize the people that you have. It's not going to be a big deal to me, but I do want to make it clear that the server is open to people. You can use this command to get it. So there's a couple of other things that I wanted to address before I kind of like open for any final like word questions. So the first thing is my prior document and my previous streams and posts. I do want to start off with that and say my feelings on a lot of things, my perspective on a lot of things have changed. I have, like I said, I have way more information now than I did when a lot of that was being shared and written. And so for the vast majority of it, I don't stand by anything that I've written. And you'll notice that most of those things have been taken down from the channel. Not deleted, but privated. And a lot of what I've written in the past, if it's still available, because I did purge my Twitter to move to Blue Sky. That was entirely disconnected to any of this, but the result was that a lot of things were deleted. A lot of the things that I have written and or shared in the past is stuff that I do not intend to just outright delete, because I think it's important to have the snapshot of the person that I was in context to who I am now, a year later. And I don't have any intention to do that, to get rid of those things, mostly to, at least for the channel, I want the videos to remain off for the like branding and the like fluidity of the channel's content, but that'll get into more in the next part of the stream. But I don't stand by most of what I said. There are things that I do still stand by, things that I'm not going to go into for like privacy reasons. And I also do think that in spite of how I acted, I do think that there were moments where I was treated unjustifiably horribly by some people, from a lot of different locations. And as guilty as I feel for a lot of what I said and did, there are still things that cross the line. And so those parts I still stand by. I'll say from my experience, I wasn't looking into anything. I was scared, depressed, and tired, and looking into the drama was something that was going to throw my mental health off of a cliff. And just being in Saige's server was enough to get me banned. And it hurt a lot because it felt like they used someone who was close to me in the server to try and persuade me to leave. . Yeah, it sucks that happened. Storm is one of the people who unfortunately fell victim to that after the split. And this was before I even showed any intention of streaming. For full disclosure, the decision to stream is something that I have been thinking about for a while, but was not finalized until a month ago. So it's very clearly not having anything to do with the content aspect of things. And like Milena said, it is coercion. That is how that functions. The last thing as far as addressing the situation itself goes that I want to specifically call out is, for those of you who may be wondering, I have reconnected with and made several private apologies to people who used to be in the server, people who used to be friends. Some of us are trying to rekindle things. Things are never going to be what they were, and I don't even know if total healing is even possible with how bad things were. But I have personally made a commitment to each of them to make amends however I can and to do whatever is needed to help fix things as best as we can, or if not fix things, then build something new. As far as the element of making public apologies, beyond what this is, as far as me acknowledging the situation and acknowledging my mistakes and the kind of person that I was, I don't intend on making any sort of public apology without talking to people in private first. And there will have to be like discussions and conditions made. Because honestly, even this is hard enough for me because I hate the performativity that comes from this kind of thing. I hate the way that this just doesn't feel authentic to me. Even as much as I'm trying to make this as authentic as possible, it doesn't feel that way because it feels like it feels like I'm just doing reality TV. And I don't think that the public apology tour thing does anything to actually lead to real healing. I think it just makes people feel better who are viewers. It feels like PR. And I'm not in the business of doing PR for this. I'm in the business of healing and moving on. And I will say that for anyone who's been involved on all sides of this, I am open to speaking with people, and I am open to having those conversations. And that includes people who are still in it, who, broke with me earlier or late last year. I am still like committed to making those amends if that's what's needed. But like I said when I left, my intention is not to just go to grovel to people, because it doesn't help them, and it only serves to make me ease my conscience personally. So people can feel free to reach out. I think I've unblocked most of everyone who was ever involved, so that they are able to if they want, but I'm not going to pressure or bug anyone. And as far as all of this goes, I just want to move on. There was a lot that happened that sucks. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I still value, things that were good. There's a lot of messiness involved in all of this. But ultimately, I just want to be done. Very brave. I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't feel like I'm being very brave, to be honest. This doesn't feel brave to me. For me personally, it just feels like doing what's needed. I know that with all of this, I'm opening myself to whatever they may say or do. I know that Kiwi Farms is still watching. I know that there are several drama tubers that pay attention to all of this, that them and their communities will still talk about things, and I don't care. I am wanting to just ignore that they exist. Oh, hello, Tipster. I really appreciate that, and I feel the same way. Thank you for leaving that comment. If for some reason you are still blocked, let me know, and I will get you unblocked. But genuinely, it does mean a lot that things are okay. That's an easy ask. I already pretend drama streamers don't exist. Well, you know, to be perfectly fair, there was a period of time where this was just a drama streamer. This was just a drama stream, like, and it was so bad. But yeah. So I guess with all of that said, I will give it a couple of minutes to, if any like questions that are coming up or anything that anyone wants to ask, like, feel free. Again, I cannot promise that I can answer everything, and I cannot promise that I will feel comfortable answering everything. But if there's anything that anyone just is dying to know, this is your opportunity. And yeah. The only drama streamer I watch is when the majority report is feeling spicy. That's fair. I do like watching Sam Cedar get very spicy. Sam Cedar, our leftist DILF king. You know, I think there is a way to, I don't know if I would say healthily, but like, there is a way to engage with drama content in a way that is not like totally unhealthy. Like, there is a reason why, like, I bring up the comparison to reality TV, because it is comparable, but it is not completely, like, it's not the same thing. You always do love spice. That's true. Sam and Emma are great hosts when bringing up silly beefs. That is true. Every time I watch one of their streams, I'm just enthralled. Which is not much anymore, and I need to get back to watching some of those more often. But good to see you're doing well. You're looking great, and I love the pink hair as always. Well, thank you. I'm glad to see so many people here. All right, well, if nobody has any questions or anything that they are dying to ask, what I'm going to say is, yeah, leave a like, you heathens. That's what we're going to end this with. And just to be perfectly clear, this is going to be turned into a segment that will be on the channel. However, it will be unlisted, because again, I don't want it to crowd up everything, but I do want it to exist for anyone to be able to see when they come to the channel and be able to answer like whatever question they may have, as far as like, oh, I thought that Saige was part of the foundation, or like, I, this or this that I remember. It is going to be available, but I don't intend on making this like a full promoted segment, and that video will not be monetized either, just to be perfectly clear, just to get ahead of anything that anyone might want to say. That's because you're a simp, dear. All right, so with that, I guess we will move on to the next segment. Oh, hey, Gayfesh. I'd like to reach out. If you want to join the server, you are free to do so. But if you want to reach out for a conversation, I don't know if I still have your Discord blocked, but if I do, I will unblock you and you can message me there if you want, or send me a request.